Hello, this is Dr. Mike. This is from my CIS 2642, and this is a look at pen testing, information gathering part 2, a little more active reconnaissance. Now, I don't want to redo what's already in the labs, which of course is HPing, which packet crafting, and some evading IDS. We will show something with Nmap, but there's a lot of ways you can do this. Maybe we'll do a decoy scan here. Now, of course, depending on the engagement, various tools can be in play. A Wireshark, if you have a Wi-Fi involved, physical, if you're physically observing a target's company site, things like that. So, but we're going to focus more within the net lab, and we'll use the firewall. We'll use IDS invasion with Nmap, but we're looking at it here as active. And just an FYI here, we'll show a tool called Burp, which is we'll use the basic edition, the free edition, which comes prepackaged in Kali. But again, we're going to see a lot of points here where our active scan is also going to be almost like passive. And then our active scan will actually give us some vulnerability scan. Now again, when we look at vulnerability scanning, we're really thinking of active scanning. Like we're actually scanning for vulnerabilities. But there is some tools like Burp that will give us this during just an active and actual passive use. So this actually happens over here too. So we're going to specifically look at Burp. But real quick here, we'll take a look at our topology. I'm using the Net Labs, of course, ethical hacking Net Labs here. I'm logged into Kali right now, and we're looking at this OWASP broken web app, BWA. So we have some topology already. We have the IP addresses, and of course, if I wanted to, I could run a decoy scan. So this is a verbose, and the -D, that is going to be decoy, saying it's coming from .2, which is going to be over here. It's the OpenSUSE. And I'm scanning .12. Now I can run nmap-sv also and other ways. And then, again, I don't want to redo what we did in the previous nmap video. Run this real quick here. I did verbose, so you can see we got a lot of information back. But really what we got is ports. And we can see that there, of course, is 8080 open, and also 443. So the best thing to do is tie back when it comes to more active / passive, is tie back our actual tool we can use, a basic tool for that port. So example, if it's HTTP, I'm going to open a web browser. So let's keep it pretty simple. I got 2 burps open here, looks like. All right. So in case, also look for ports higher level up. In this case, 8081 and 8080. These a lot of times these are actually this proxy port here, and black ice, ice cap, and so on. And you might find higher ports open that have pages, default pages for either setups or logins. Those usually are shut down after the fact. Examples, maybe a blog setup will have a high level port that is reserved for do initial setup. And if that port is still open, there could be a login on there that you could be able to use in an attack. So, and it might give you admin access. And a lot of times those are usually taken down after the setup is done, but it depends on the software. Maybe someone forgot to do it. For now, though, we're going to focus on our web browser here. So we have a web browser in play. And I have it open here, Iceweasel, and I went to 8080, and I actually went to one of the sites that came on. This is the basic page. It's the broken web app applications. It's a fantastic OWASP tool that has got a bunch of broken web apps. But we'll come to this one, TikiWiki. We use this one a lot. Actually, we use it in later demos also. So this is a great thing to use for some targets. So off the bat, I see a username and password login. All right, so that's great right there. This main page, it's PHP. That tells me the type of technology it's running. Powered by PHP right there. So right off the bat, I know if this is PHP, if I can scan for PHP, do a PHP scanner, and look for what version is running, it's very possible that they're running behind. So let's go back and do our Nmap here. I'll just do a straight Nmap. We'll do a SV, I believe we want. Oops, not that one. SV, other way around. So this is going to take a little longer. And in a live situation, this could take a long time sometimes. So if you're doing a live pen test, I'm in a lab environment, so it's very, very quiet and there's not too much running. While it's running though, again, you can see powered by TikiWiki, powered by this. There's a TikiWiki version right here. So just the main page itself, created by admin, user information admin. Click on that, look at this. I now have a user ID, admin. Now I actually can set up, if I wanted to, I could set up a brute force attack, or more a dictionary attack, really. But in any case here, okay, we have all kinds of stuff here. Apache 2.2.14, we have, it's not the same on that port too. Samba 3.x, 445, that's a huge one. NetBIOS. Samba is a great one to look at. Usually those are not exposed to the internet. If are exposed larger than it should be. We get some other engines here. I'm not sure what those are. Might do Google stuff, and some Java port open, Java RMI. So, but again, we have PHP 5.3.2. So, right off the bat, just the scan itself gives me results, but also just looking at the web page gives me results. I have a possible username. I have a login page I can use. And then before we start just browsing this web page here, let's use a tool called Burp Suite. So I launched Burp Suite already. I'll relaunch it so we start fresh. So Burp Suite, this is Burp Suite Community Edition, or Free Edition. The Professional Edition of the costs not too much. And using this class to try to find a way to get us a license for a temporary license. You can get a temporary license for evaluation. It packs a lot of tools, and it is probably for the web app pen tester is one of the premier tools you want to use. So what is Burp Suite? It's a proxy tool. So again, it's going to do passive, active, and a little bit of this. We'll go ahead and how does it work? So what we have is we serve interject Burp Suite. Here's our target web page. We have our client. Here, of course, our OS, our web browser. Burp Suite sort of sits in between this. So Burp sits here, and it's going to become a proxy. So everything's going to go through Burp, hit the web browser. Anything from the web browser back also is going to go through Burp. So it allows me to pause, evaluate, and even modify traffic. So if I see maybe a request comes in and it has maybe like a UID in the URL, I can take that. What if I change UID by one letter or one number on it and I send it back? What do I get back? What kind of results am I seeing? So it sits in the middle there. To do that, it needs to do a proxy. And so I will say this, if you have the newest version of Burp Suite, it actually has its own built-in web browser, which is fantastic, so you can avoid this. But if you don't have that, or you want to use your own web browser, you go to proxy up here, and we look at our options. We can see we proxy off of localhost port 8080. And right now it's not running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my web browser here, go to my preferences, usually I use Firefox for this if I'm doing my web browser. But again, the new version of Burp Suite comes with a built-in Chromium web browser, which is already proxied. So I'm going to do my settings here, and I'm going to set manual proxy 127.0.0.1, and that's port 8080, and I'm using it for all protocols. Hit OK, and close that. And I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to look at my intercept. Intercept is on, which means it's going to grab the very first thing it hits. I'll show you what that looks like here. So we'll do a refresh, and we can see it's spinning. It's waiting to get anything back, and you can go to Burp here. You see it grabbed the first intercept. Now I can go and forward each packet individually. To be honest, it's very tedious, so I just could intercept like this. And go to my target tab, and I'm going to let my browser sort of do its own work here. And we can see we have some other stuff here, tikiwiki.org and so on. I'm going to add this to my scope. So right-clicking in Burp is one of the main things here. So I added the scope, and it did some regex for me there. And I'm going to click on here. This is actually a filter. Click on this and show only in-scope items. And I click and close it. This way I don't have to worry about all the noise. A lot of websites, they go out externally, they grab stuff from external sites, fonts, things like that. It ends up being noise, but also if it is not part of your scope of work, then you want to ignore it, because you don't want to go down a rabbit hole and find yourself chasing maybe a vulnerability on an external website, external third party that's not even part of your client. So here we see TicketWiki actually. Look at this, index.php. So I can see the response and request. There's my request, and parameters were sent. There's a session ID. Okay, that's something I would look at. And response. Now what I'm going to do is, you can do several tools here. One, of course, is just manually go back to your web browser and just go to the home page, click on admin again, look at the last changes, rankings. I'm just clicking on stuff. That's my pages, and so on. Home page. And now, of course, we can go through this. You try doing a login. Let's try admin. Let's try password. Now, of course, this is port 80, so we know everything here is probably come back as insecure, or incorrect, which is fine. Throw bad stuff out. There we go. Invalid username and password. That's fine. We can see if you go back to our proxy history and you reverse sort this, we can see everything we did here. So we can see our admin password. If I wanted to, here's our session ID, and so on. So again, I'm not going to go into attacks. That's later on. But you can see this is used. There's a lot of stuff here. We can use repeater, sequencer, and so on. Let's look at some basic tools here. Go back to our target tab and right-click, and I can spider the host. And we'll say ignore that form. That's a login form. It's asking for login passwords. And look at this. It's actually doing a spider. It's crawling in the host. What else we got in place here? Again, we'll ignore this. Ignore form. I should put that on there. Ignore. Ignore, and I should turn that off. You can see it's finding all these login.php and so on. So, all right, ignore and ignore. So hopefully we'll be done here in a second. So what I did was I forgot 2 passwords in that one. So submit, sign me up. We'll ignore that right there. Look at this, text, email, password, CAPTCHA stuff, hints, passwords. This must be the new user PHP, login PHP. So you can see it's actually crawling the website, and it's finding, unfortunately I forgot to turn off in my spider. You can tell the spider to ignore form submissions. And that's fine. If you need be, you can always kill your spider. Like I can go here in spider, and I can go ahead and click that and pause it. And then options, check robots, ignore request directories. We can do form submissions. Don't submit forms. There we go. All right. I think I have the window still open here. Yeah, ignore. All right, there we go. So even if I forget options. Burp Suite is a huge, it's a pretty big learning curve. There's a lot here. But for now, we're going to take it piece by piece. And the first piece was, again, right-clicking is going to be your main, right-clicking and filtering. But right-clicking is going to be your friend. So you can see I've actually spidered my host here. And you have a nice way you can actually look at WordPress. There's a WordPress on there. What? WP admin, WP login.php. You can see the PHP. I can look at session IDs, things like that. Of course, the response back. You can actually, and this is the raw HTML. You can look at the headers that come back. Again, I don't want to cross into attack, but you can see where, if I wanted to, I can send this to some like repeater or intruder, and I could set up an attack here. And again, this is going to be separate, so we're not going to do that here. What we want to do is we want to collect everything we can about our target, and a spider will do that for you. And so it might show up as a regular client. If you look at your spider settings, it might be able to change how it comes across. In this case, there we go. Right now, so our spiders come across as a Mozilla compliant browser. So what our target sees is just a web browser hitting all the web pages. And of course, if it's on the internet, this should not be any alarm, any kind of alarm should kick off here. But you could actually change your request header if you want to match a certain type of web browser. But our spider's coming across as a regular web browser. This is what you want, because sometimes websites will react different for different types of user agents. So if you come across with nothing, it might think you're a scanner, and it might not show you a lot of pages, or it might lock pages away. And the last thing I'll look at here, and when we look at my web attacks, we'll come back to this too, is do we have it here? Yeah, it is. Okay, we have it in alphabetical order. Looking for robots.txt. Which I can probably search for, I think. I don't know. We'll have to do a search for that. So again, we conspired the host. Now, pro versions have got a bunch of other stuff here. But we can save these items. We can export them out. And the last one we'll look at here is we get information about the MIME type, if there's any type of files that have been found, and so on. But there's a lot of information here already, and this is just from looking at it. I don't see a robots.txt on the main site, which is fine. Robots.txt, and we'll refer to this when we look at web attacks. It's sort of the, it's what's used for web scanners, like Google, Bing, and so on. When they scan it, when they hit an IP address, they read robots.txt, and they sort of follow the rules. The old versions of one would say, don't scan these pages, maybe for security reasons. Well, as an attacker, those pages are going to be definitely of value. I think when we come back to more web-based attacks, we'll take a look at that. But for now, again, we have a lot of information here. And we can see our proxy here. So here we can see everything we've done. We can see what's been sent back and forth. So even if you manually click on stuff in here, you see back there, just went 27. We'll highlight that one there. Let's highlight that red. And you can see as I click in the background, everything is being captured. So bam, orphan pages, admin. So again, we're seeing everything that's happening, which is great. And if it has parameters, that's awesome, because we might be able to use those in an attack. Session IDs are something that jump out as a huge thing for me. Cookies, things like that. I mean, we still see those in the headers, refers, and there's a cookie here. So what's NADA and so on. So don't be surprised if you find yourself not sure what everything is, but parameters are one that you want to look for. There's a cookie ID, so session ID is a cookie. That's fantastic. So this is a great, this is a fantastic thing that's used for both reconnaissance and actual vulnerability scanning. Now, this is the free version of Burp Suite, so there is no scanner here. So, as I mentioned before, if and when you get the free version, inside the professional version here, you can see it actually will find and show you where it might have found stuff. And actually, it does this during your regular use. So as I mentioned before here in the previous graph, which was there's times you just do passive work through a utility that is both active and even some vulnerability scanning. So, but again, this comes with the professional version. I'll get the version of that, I'll load it up, and we'll do some demos with the pro version. For now, though, I just want to show you, even with this simple version here, you have a fantastic utility. One hint, if you do use burp on your own system, you want to do your settings for your options here. Options, sessions, you want to save at all possible. Do backups. You want to be able to do backups. I think it's here. It's one of the ones here. Automatically back. Oh, pro version only. Yeah, this is fantastic. We have the pro version, and you're doing a live pen test, and you want to have this on. This is a Java-based app, and then after a while of use, it gets pretty heavy on memory use, and it can crash. You don't want to go 2-3 hours in doing some work and find out this thing has crashed, and you got to start all over again. So you want automatic backups on. Again, that's pro version only. So I will exit this, and I will go back here to my browser, network, advanced, network settings. We'll turn off the proxy, and now we're back to regular use. Again, we can still click around. Everything works fine. And one thing we do have available here is, should have available, is there's Nmap, of course. I was looking for Zap. Where are you at, Zap? You know what? When in doubt, click on that. Oh, wow, Zap. So Zap is almost like a burp suite. And to be honest, I mentioned before in my Zen Pen about too many tools. It's a case where actually having 2 tools. Let's say start. Do a quick scan here. This is really similar to Burp Suite. So 192.168.68.12. Attack. Now this is free, so this actually might expose more stuff than Burp, the free version of Burp will. There you go, the robots.txt right there. That's all I want to see. Request response, so on. It comes back here. It's still running, so it might not show anything yet. But you can see you get a same type of thing here. Look at this. So you sort of get a nice little, there's robots.txt. There we go. Response. Not found. Okay. So it was not there. There's no robots.txt. Actually, the web page, it says there's no robots.txt found in the server. It's funny. But again, this has tools. And one of the tools you, of course, use is to, that's attack, is spider. So we can spider the site from here also. So I'm not going to do the same thing again. What it might come down to, though, is if you have Burp Suite Pro and you find a possible vulnerability, maybe identified a possible injection site, you can also run it here, too, and see if this finds it. This might help you validate a vulnerability. So I'm going to vulnerability scanning. Again, it's hard not to talk about it. But I want to show you the tool is Zap. You can run Zap as also. As we get more into vulnerability scanning, there's other tools I will bring in. We will look at. But you can see this is a very similar tool. I will let that run. But we'll actually end the demo here. So again, starting with just looking at the code, which is something I didn't show you, but there are some tools you can use. And of course is view source. Now, view page source. So this is what sort of you're doing anyways with Burp. And you're doing it on a mass scale. So look for comments. Could be something that could be of interest. Scrape for comments, email addresses, usernames, and so on. And we have Burp Pro. It actually will identify email addresses found. So what this find here? It's out of scope, it says. That's funny. Alerts. Look at this. So this is similar to what you see in Burp. Application error disclosure. That's great. Error pages are something you want to look for. If you can come across an error page, look for it. It might actually say the database behind the scenes encountered an error. That's fantastic. So this is almost similar to what we're seeing in Burp Pro. Honestly, Burp Pro is probably the premier tool. If you work for a company that's going to do web app pen testing, you definitely want to be able to have them pay for your license. It's like $500 a year, I believe. password in your browser and private IP disclosure and so on. So you can see a lot of information comes across here. Again, this is vulnerability analysis, so I'm not going to go into here, but if you do find error pages, you want to see if you get error pages back. And it might be worth looking at it manually, going to that URL manually, and find the error page, because error pages, again, show information about the underlying system, version numbers, and so on. So, in any case, okay, that's Zap. Leave it here. This is a quick look at some more some tools you can use for some active scanning on our target. Thank you.